67 souls lost their lives on January 29th. That's why we're here. The NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, came out with their preliminary findings today. I want to commend Chair Jennifer Hamady for the great work and great recommendations that came from the board. And I want to talk about their recommendations on how we're going to learn from this crash, but also their investigation and their recommendations. So first off, I want to talk about Route 4. That is the route that helicopters take on the Potomac River right off of runway 33. That's where this crash took place. And so I thought Chair Hamady, if I can bring up the graphic here, made an incredibly important point in her press conference. And in her graphic, you can see 0 at the bottom would be runway 33. If you go to the left to 4,000, that is the eastern edge of the river by the embankment. If you go up 200 feet, you are only 75 feet away from a landing aircraft. So at best, we're in a situation where we're threading a needle allowing helicopters to fly down the same airspace as landing aircraft. And why this information wasn't studied and known before January 29th is an important question. But based on that information and this crash, we are going to continue with our restrictions on Route 4 here. So about 36 hours after the crash, we restricted this airspace, and we're going to continue with those restrictions. That would be from Haynes Point to the Wilson Bridge. Again, this is the area right off of runway 33 where the crash happened. We're going to have a notice to airmen with the specific guidelines on how they're going to fly this route. I talked to Secretary Pete Hegseth earlier today, talked about giving the military, the DOD, a route around this restricted airspace, which I think the military is going to be fine with. We will have exclusions for presidential air travel, vice presidential air travel. If there's a life-saving mission or law enforcement, we'll have exclusions for that. And we'll take the appropriate action at DCA to shut down air travel to make sure we don't have, again, helicopters and airplanes crossing paths. So this is going to continue into the future, again, making sure air travel at DCA is safe. Want to also talk about another point that Chair Hamady brought up, that over the last 2.5 years, there have been 85 near misses or close calls. And that is close calls that are within 200 feet of vertical separation and 1,500 feet of lateral separation. Incredibly close for aircraft. 85 of them. I think the question is, when this data comes in, how did the FAA not know? How did they not study the data to say, hey, this is a hot spot, we're having near misses, and if we don't change our way, we're going to lose lives? That wasn't done. Maybe there was a focus on something other than safety. But in this administration, we are focusing on safety. And so what the FAA has deployed is AI tools to make sure we can sift through the data and find hotspots in our airspace at our airports. So if there's another DCA-esque situation out there, our AI tools will help us identify those and take corrective actions preemptively as opposed to retroactively. Also another incredibly important safety lesson that we've learned from the DC airspace crash. I want to talk a little bit about how we move forward, because there's been a number of air incidents that have taken place over the first several weeks since I came into this department. And there's no unique they're all unique. There's no common theme to the crashes that have taken place. But I think what it's done for us is made us focus on our air traffic control system. And when we take a look at that system, no doubt it is antiquated, it's old, it's anywhere from 25 to 30 years old. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. We're using floppy disks in our system. We have headphone jacks that we're plugging and unplugging. This is, think back to the 1980s, if you were even alive. That's the system that we're using for air traffic control. Now, I want to be clear, our system is safe, right? It's old, but it's safe. But we do have signs to say, looking forward, we don't want to lose lives because we have a break in the system. So it has to be upgraded, and it's going to take money. And a lot of promises have been made from DOT and the FAA about upgrades to the system that have never happened. Again, this should have happened 4 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But right now we're at a point where we can actually do it, and we can do it really fast. Again, we're thinking, 3.5, 4 years we can get this completed. A brand new air traffic control system, gold-plated, envy of the world. And so what we're looking at doing is they're not simple. This is high-tech stuff, but we are going to move from copper wires. We're going to go to fiber, wireless, and satellite, right? A combination of those three in our system. We have radar. Again, it works, but this is from the 1970s or early 80s is the newest radar that we use. We are going to get state-of-the-art brand new radar to feed into our cabs, into our towers, into our scopes. We need state-of-the-art new terminals for our air traffic controllers. So they have all the right screens with all the best technology behind it that gives them the best data to analyze as they give instructions to air traffic. And finally, we're going to deploy resources for runway safety, new technology that will allow our air traffic controllers not to use binoculars in the tower to see where aircraft are at, but to actually have ground radar or sensors at our airports that will allow air traffic controllers to see where airplanes are at and better control their movements. We've heard a lot of news stories of just near misses on the tarmac. And how do you alleviate that? Take away the binoculars and give them technology so they can see on their screens where every aircraft is at. And I think by doing this, we are going to greatly improve our safety in the system, but it's also going to improve the efficiency that we have in American air travel, which I think will mean less delays, less cancellations, and again, better safety. Now, just a real quick point. This is going to cost money, and we're in an environment where there's a lot of cost cutting. We're looking for savings everywhere in government, and that's appropriate. I think we have a government that is far too bloated, far too fat. We can go on a diet, but that doesn't mean we don't see points that need investment, and this is a place that we need investment. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to come out with this plan. I'm going to share it with the Congress, get their feedback, let them put their fingerprints on it, but then I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask the Congress for all the money up front so we can expedite this process of building out this system. One of the problems is it takes too long. If you go 6, 8, 15 years, Congresses change, money changes, priority changes, administrations change, technology changes, and they do fits and starts. They start to upgrade technology, and it never gets completed. It's not that the Congress never gave any money. It's not that the FAA didn't want to do the upgrades. It just takes too long. So they have to give us the money. We're going to lay out our plan to actually do it really quickly. And again, this is the time. When you lose 67 lives, I think we can honor those who lost their lives by paying this forward and saying, you know what? We're going to make sure we've learned from this air disaster, and we're going to pay it forward so there's not other families that have to go through the pain and anguish of losing a loved one like these families had to go through. And I think that's how we honor them. That's how we pay it forward. And we do it by fixing the system and making it better and making it work. So again, to the recommendations that the NTSB have given us off this crash, we are adopting. We accept them. We were actually doing them 36 hours after the crash. And we'll look forward to hearing more from the NTSB as their recommendations and investigations continue. And with that, happy to take any questions you may have for me.
Hi, yeah, Will Geisbach from the Air Current. I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on the AI tools that you mentioned were being in use. I know that there's been plans in the past, especially at FAA, to implement those tools in existing databases of like safety data, safety voluntary reporting databases. Can you talk a little bit about where that's being used and when it started?
So it was Liam. It was used in the last couple of weeks. We started using the AI tools. And again, we started with 12 airports where we have a lot of cross traffic to analyze the data and again, look for hot spots. And in the next 2 weeks, we're going to deploy that to all of the airports around the country.
So is it towers? Is it like at the airport and aircraft control towers?
Well, as the information comes in, yes. At airports, through towers, yes. When that information comes in, again, whether you have near misses, again, I think it's a lot of information comes and it's hard to parse through it. AI will help us look at it and see what information we can draw from it to make changes moving forward to prevent disasters. This is not the only, DCA is not the only airspace that has this cross traffic. There's several other airports out there that have this, and again, do we have problems in those airports like we did in TCA? Yes.
Secretary Duffy, it's Pete Muntean with CNN. When you think about the fact that the NTSB says there was 15,000 close calls over a 3-year period, 85 of them very close, how upset does that make you? And does it say that the FAA should have been looking at some of that more closely, because a lot of that sounds like it was publicly available data?
Yeah,
Yes.
so does it piss me off? Yes. And that's not an appropriate word maybe for a secretary to use, but of course. That the data was there, it wasn't effectively analyzed to see that we had this kind of risk at DCA makes me angry, right? And again, maybe there was too much data coming in. And it's easy maybe to look back and say you should have seen it. Looking forward, it can be more challenging. But it seems pretty clear someone should have seen, because pilots were talking about it. You've heard news stories, social media posts of pilots talk about these near misses. It's not like it was hidden in the data somewhere. If someone was paying attention, someone was on the job, they would have seen this. And so, again, this is a lesson for us to use the best tools possible today that we have available to us to analyze the data, and that's why we started to use AI.
Quick follow-up. You talk a lot about speed when it comes to the FAA and changing the FAA, but I think those who have been indoctrinated there for a long time might say that's a dangerous thing because you don't want to sacrifice safety. So how do you find a happy medium there, and do you worry about maybe introducing some sort of danger here?
So it's a good question. So speed versus safety. That's a wonderful question. And again, I could say you don't move fast and you don't have new technology, right? You're really safe with 1960s technology in our towers. I would say that's not a good solution. And so if you look at building out fiber, using wireless, using satellites, that can happen at the same time as we're still using our old fiber network, right? We're building it out. We can, in many places, we can put up our new radar at the same time we're using the current radar. It'll take some time to switch over, but we can do those two things at the same time. After fiber's laid, we can then come on the backside, choreographing how we do it and start building out our terminals for air traffic controllers, right? So it has to be, many things can happen at the same time, but other things have to be choreographed. And again, the switchover and the training that goes into it is going to have to be done right, but we can't continue with the same system, right? And the reason it's not done is not because of money, not because there wasn't a will, but because we get killed by time. So you have to move fast. You can train. Listen, it's America. 4 years is still a long time to do this. To get people trained up, to get the technology deployed to build the state-of-the-art air traffic control system, I think we can't accept anything but that. Yes?
Hi, Secretary Duffy. Ali Versprell from Bloomberg News. You'd previously on Fox mentioned an 18-month time frame for rebuilding the air traffic control system. And right now you talked about 3.5 to 4 years. Can you kind of clarify what you're hoping to get done in 18 months versus the multi-year timeline?
The question was 18 months to now 3.5 years. What happened? Listen, we're not going to do a partial. We are going to give you a brand new system. The best of the best, state of the art. And I think we're America. We deserve that. We should have that. So I'm putting everything in to give America the best air traffic control system possible. And again, I think the American people want it, and I think the Congress wants it, and I'm going to give them a plan that'll show that we can do it. Yes.
Secretary Duffy, Dave Shepardson from Reuters. So are you going to maintain all the existing restrictions on helicopters at DCA? And can you talk about the fact that the helicopter was not using ADSB out and whether you want the military to use that safety system on routine training missions? And just on the congressional side, the prior administration asked for $8 billion. It sounds like what you're talking about is something much higher than that to get a new system and address all the antiquated parts of the.
So yeah, so it's going to be a lot of money, but in regard to how Washington spends money, I think it's going to be a pretty reasonable number. And again, I'm all for efficiencies and slimming down the size of our government, but there are things you have to invest in, and we'll try to do it as cost effectively as possible. But it'll be tens of billions of dollars to fix it, I believe. And again, the Congress sends the money. The Congress, there are smart legislators who understand this space very well, and we'll look for their feedback. Also, with regard to the communication systems that the DoD uses, that's additional conversations we have to have with them about what they should deploy when they fly in civilian airspace.
In terms of the existing restrictions, are you maintaining all the current restrictions on helicopters?
Yes, we are. We might make some modifications. Again, as this was 36 hours after the crash, so now with the report, I want to make sure that we have airplanes landing and taking off effectively and efficiently from DCA while maintaining safety. So there's a couple of caveats I may have to make, but never in a space where we're going to have airlines and helicopters crossing paths. Yes.
Hi, Lori Artani with the Washington Post. Just to clarify, so you are going to accept and implement both urgent recommendations issued by the NTSB today?
Well, I think she had one urgent recommendation, which was the DCA airspace, Route 4.
And then the rerouting of.
That's right. So as part of blocking off Route 4 between Haynes Point and Wilson Bridge, we'll give another pathway for aircraft to go around. But yes, that's that, and that was in place 36 hours after. We're going to continue that. Again, we do have exceptions for presidential and vice presidential travel. The airspace gets shut down when that happens. They can travel Route 4, but airplanes aren't coming into DCA during those time periods. So yes.
Okay, can I sneak one more in, which is,
Sure. I
know you have an existing vendor that's working on the modernization of the national airspace. What happens with that Verizon contract?
So the Verizon contract is still in play. How we move forward is a question we're going to grapple with. But again, I need contractors. By the way, for the telecom, we currently have 200 providers. Not one company can't do it alone, but I want companies who are going to build excellent infrastructure and build it quickly. That's what we need. And those who are on board are going to work with us. Those who aren't won't get contracts.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Just to follow up on our question, Sam Ogazalek at Politico, I want to triple check. You're accepting both urgent recommendations today, both permanent restrictions on Route 4 and the alternate route.
So again, Route 4 is closed off, like it has been per the recommendation from Haynes Point to the Wilson Bridge. We're going to continue with that. Now, there are points where other aircraft can come through, like the president, if there's a life-saving mission, if there's a law enforcement mission. We'll deal with air traffic at DCA as we allow those aircraft to come through. We're going to have a notice to airmen that comes out. We're going to put all the finer points on this by tomorrow and release that to the public and to pilots.
And in regard to DOT's RIF plan, how many layoffs are expected agency-wide and specifically at the FAA?
Well, when we make that decision, I'll get back to you, or you can reach out to us. Yes?
Hi, it's Tia Humphries with ABC News. A part of the alternate routes with the cancellation of using Route 4, does that include flying over residential areas at all, or just another body of water?
We're gonna put all the details out on that tomorrow, so you'll see what the plan looks like. But I think the clear point here is having helicopters fly under landing aircraft and allowing helicopter pilots to say, I'll maintain visual separation. That is not going to happen anymore. That is too risky. You're threading the needle, and it's going to stop.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Just a question on safety more broadly. I'm sure you've seen Delta's CEO came out and said that airfare ticket sales are down as a result of the recent crashes. I think American changed its revenue outlook to the downside as a result of the crashes. They've said that flying is still safe. You've said it. NTSB Chair Homendy has said it. But are you worried that these assurances are not getting through to the flying public or the public writ large?
Listen, I think whenever you have a crash that gets the attention that this one did, people will pause for a moment. But when they pause and reflect, they would say, of course, millions of flights, hundreds of millions of passengers a year travel on airplanes in this country. It is the safest mode of transportation. I think Chair Homendy made the point, it's more dangerous to drive to the airport than it is to fly out of the airport. And that's true. Again, and we have to work on this number. We lose over 40,000 people a year in car crashes. Way too many. We got to bring that number down. We don't lose anywhere near that number in air travel. So again, this is incredibly safe. But again, I think what I'm doing is learning lessons from what happened in the last month, but then also looking at what risks do we have in the future, and let's fix those risks before we have any loss of life. One more question? Yeah.
I have a weird technical question that you might not be able to answer. The FAA instituted, I think, 45 of the runway interference technology, and how does that differ from the AI technology? Is that a wonky question?
So one more.
Yeah. Last year, the FAA instituted like 45 of the radar technology at the. I'll connect with my own. Okay. But I'm going to pivot to another question. A lot of
That's the deal.
a lot of the stuff that you're saying about the fixing the NAS and everything like that, that's not new, right? The transition to fiber, that was a part of the FAA restructuring. What's new here? Is it just that this is the time to actually, you've got the momentum, let's do it?
So a couple things are new. We're going to do it all at the same time, right? That doesn't mean we switch over all at the same time, because I think CNN asked or made the point that can be risky. We want to make sure we train and have a smart switchover, but we're not doing a step-by-step approach, right? And to your point, you'd say, well, let's look at next gen. We already said we're going to do it. Well, look at the space. Talk to an air traffic controller. Talk to pilots. Talk to CEOs of airlines. It hasn't been done. And so our mission is to have, and I've made this call, and I've had a lot of feedback. I want some of the best engineers, some of the best minds in America to help us think through how we can do this really quickly. Again, we can lay fiber. It can be done quickly, but those who lay fiber can't put us at the back of the line. We can't come before every other customer that they have. They should put us at the front of the line to make sure they do our work first. And again, with that kind of focus, I think the promises that have been made for over a decade that have never come to fruition can actually happen. And again, I would just note that President Trump moves at a different speed, and he brings in different talent to help accomplish the goals of his administration, and we're going to tap into that talent. Southwest did a 2-year upgrade of their system. Huge overhaul. They had an old system as well. And I've talked to the CEO of Southwest, and he said, I'll share with you what I did right. I'll share some of the mistakes that we made so you won't make them yourself. But the whole industry is cheering us on to make this happen. And again, I want to use the taxpayer money well, but we don't want to shortchange this effort. This is a moment in time that we can pay these lives forward and fix a system that was broken, and again, do it quickly. One more.
On Verizon, you said the contract's in play. Do you anticipate that $2.4 billion contract to Verizon being renegotiated? Could you see part of it going to Starlink or some other company?
So I need action. I need people to move. I need, if we have a $2.4 billion contract, I want the fiber in the ground. We're over a year into that contract, and how far along are we? That's the question. And so I want companies that want to move fast and build this out. I can't wait 10 years. You can't wait the American people can't wait 10 years or 12 years to lay fiber. We have copper right now. And so I need companies that are going to move at the speed of Donald Trump. And those that want to do it, they want to put the effort in and say, we're the company that can do this for you and with you. Those are the companies that I want to hire. And now, may that be Verizon? Maybe. But if I'm looking back, they're not moving fast enough. I need companies that are going to move fast. And it's not going to be one company. We're going to need a lot of companies to buy in and help build out this system. And so I want to thank you all for coming out. Stay tuned. 10 days, 2 weeks. We're going to roll this out, give it to the Hill, put a price tag on it, and we're going to start the work of building a brand new air traffic control system that will be the envy of the world. And with that, thank you very much.